Hello and welcome back to ESBR Boxing. Delighted to be joined tonight by one of the newest members of ESBR Boxing, Niall. Niall, firstly, thank you for joining me tonight. And how are you, mate?
How are you? Good, yeah. Great to be here. Discuss the big fight coming up at the weekend, which should be exciting.
As Niall sort of led us on there, Canelo, John Ryder, big fight this weekend. It's the biggest night of John Ryder's career by an absolute country mile. But I think the major talking points really are sort of Canelo at this stage of his career. What's he got left? What next for him? So we'll fire into that. Niall, Canelo, 30, 33, 32, nearly 33. At this stage of his career, he is fighting John Ryder, not the biggest name in the sport. What do you actually make of this fight at this stage of his career?
As a fight, it's not the greatest fight, as you said. It's not. I think, to be honest, Canelo will do what he wants with him, and when he wants. It's more. I'm excited to see the spectacle of him coming back to Mexico for after so long, and as you said, I'm delighted for John Ryder to get that big payday that he's kind of deserved for his career, the career that he's had. But as a fight, no, it's. I think it's an easy night's work for Canelo, and that's no shame for John Ryder. There's no shame in that at all. But Canelo is just on a different planet to him, to be honest.
No, I completely agree with everything you said there. I think for myself, it does sort of lead into my next sort of question, but John Ryder, Canelo, it's not the fight I ever expected. It's not necessarily the type of fights we want to see Canelo in, especially as he gets towards the business end of his career. But this is boxing. This is what happens with the governing bodies and all the bouts. So here we are. It's still a decent-ish fight in terms of matchup wise. I think, like you say, Canelo's levels above John Ryder, and I do agree. I think he'll show that. It's not the first time we've seen Canelo do this. We've seen him fight Avni Yildirim as a mandatory. We've seen him fight Rocky Fielding as a mandatory, almost just to keep busy in between sort of the big fights. Do you think at sort of, like you say, 32, pushing on 33 in the summer, should he be taking these mandatory fights at this stage of his career, or do you think he should just be looking at the big names, the big sort of undisputed fights?
Well, I think with somebody like Canelo, like he's such a great fighter that he's he's almost earned the right to kind of take these softer mandatories, if you will. Well, I'm not calling John Ryder a soft fight, to be honest, but we know when he does deal with the mandatories and get them out of the way, he always looks to take the great, the biggest fights possible. So I think he's earned it in that respect to kind of, as you say, take these mandatories as keep busy fights. But yeah, hopefully now, if he does kind of get past John Ryder, we'll see him. We will see him in some huge fights, either super middleweight or light heavyweight. Later on in the year, maybe September. You know, the September date that he can secure a big fight. Then hopefully, anyway.
You've led me perfectly onto my next question there, Niall. The light heavyweight mention, we know what Canelo's like as a fighter. He's going to want to avenge that Bivol loss. Does he fight Bivol after he fights John Ryder?
I think he does fight Bivol. I think he's definitely going to be desperate to fight Bivol anyway. I think he'll want to get that one back. Personally, I think it's going to be a tough night for him, but again, there's no shame in that. Bivol is brilliant, but I'd like to see him fight. I'd actually like to see that fight at super middleweight, to be honest, for the belt at super middleweight. I think Bivol can make it. He's expressed he wants to do it. I think at super middleweight, I'd love to see it, but I think I can see him fighting Bivol in September, to be honest.
Again, your answers are leading me perfectly into my questions here. What weight at this stage of his career do you think Canelo should be campaigning at?
I think, to be honest, I don't think he's a light heavyweight. I think it proved that in the Bivol loss again. Bivol's a brilliant fighter, but Canelo. He's not built to carry that extra weight. And I know he beat Kovalev, but Kovalev was giving him problems, to be honest, before the stoppage, and Kovalev was a faded version of himself, to be honest. So I think between middleweight and super middleweight, but super middleweight for me is his perfect weight, but that's yeah, that's where I'd like to see him make his home, to be honest, permanently. But I can't fault him for daring to be great and going to light heavyweight to take on the likes of Bivol. It has to be applauded, to be honest.
And then, like you say, obviously, I do completely agree. It does have to be applauded. I know he's going to take the Bivol fight, but I think he's tried light heavyweight personally. I think he's gave it a go. He dared to be great. There's no shame in that loss. I think he should just leave it be. There's some massive fights, you know, the likes of the Charlos, etc. Even in sort of, he can float in between even middleweight and super middleweight if he really wanted to. With the sort of fights you've mentioned, like you say, the big ones at super middleweight, the Bivol fight, potential of a light heavyweight opponents. How many years do you see him being at this sort of elite level?
I think I think to be honest, he's still brilliant enough to hang around for another maybe 3 or 4 years. You know, I know people were quick to write him off after the Bivol loss, but we seen in the Golovkin fight last year when he went back down to super middleweight, he's still brilliant. I know Golovkin is again quite faded compared to what he used to be, but the way he dismantled him like nobody's ever done that. He's still an elite talent, you know, and I think I wouldn't. I'd probably pick him against. I'd pick him against everybody at middleweight or super middleweight. Still, to be honest.
And then what I wanted to finish on was we've seen over the years, we've seen the top fighters at the level Canelo's at, where they carry on and they carry on and they don't necessarily retire on top. Do you see Canelo retiring on top as one of the best in the game, or do you see him not necessarily tainting his record, but maybe taking on fights at a certain point he shouldn't be taking them on?
It's a good question. To be honest, I'd love to see him retire on top. I think he's had the career that's deserved to, you know, go out on top, say like an Andre Ward did or someone like that. So I think if he can beat, if he can stake his claim at super middleweight by maybe defeating Benavides, maybe David Benavides, and then if he was to go back up to light heavyweight or beat Bivol at super middleweight and got out, then it'd be cemented his status as an all-time great, and I would love to see it, to be honest.
I think you've hit the nail on the head perfectly there. I think his resume speaks for itself. But Niall, it's been an absolute pleasure. I think you've made some great points there on sort of the future of Canelo. Leave some comments below, guys, if you think me and Niall are wrong and anything. If you think Canelo is not at the level he used to be, or if you think Canelo could still be at this level when he's 40. It's a great talking point. I do agree with like Niall said, he will go down as an all-time great. But like I say, like, comment, subscribe, check out our other videos, and let us know what you think in the comments, guys. Cheers, Niall.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.